Dystopia warning, obviously. Unless you've been living under a rock the last couple of days, you'll know about the serious string of allegations that Russell Brand has been accused of by numerous women. The crimes that he's accused of are so disgusting, horrific and upsetting that I cannot and will not list them. But I would like to offer a trigger warning to anyone watching this. I know the toll it takes psychologically on women when stories like this, and they are so common, resurface. Like every other woman I know, I have a story. In fact, I have multiple. The first time that I was in public sexually harassed by a man was when I was 9 years old. Older men would leer at me in my school uniform from the age of about 11. This is one of the many realities that women face and girls face. Now, I'm not going to focus too much on that two-bit fucking hippycrite. Frankly, anybody that believes the ramblings of the wish version of Charles Manson instantly loses all of their credibility, frankly. But what I want to look at is the culture and the way that society operates, which encourages misogyny and allows women to be treated like slabs of meat by men. But what I will say is one of the people that made allegations against Brand was 16 years old when she alleges that the incidents took place. She also alleges that he took her out of school, and what she alleges that he did to her was so upsetting that I cried reading her testimony. And what are women supposed to do? Say you are a victim of a serious crime. Do you go to the police? An institution that protected and enabled a Metropolitan Police officer to become one of the most prolific rapists that Britain's ever known. The same Met Police force whose officers took pictures of the murdered dead bodies of two young women and then disseminated them in a WhatsApp group for a laugh and then got released early from prison. The same police force that turned a blind eye to the behaviour of Wayne Couzens, who nicknamed him the rapist and whose failure to take action allowed him to remain in the force and then abuse his position as a police officer to abduct, rape and murder Sarah Everard. What about the women who tried to hold a vigil for Sarah Everard? The women that were stormed by police, pushed face down into the ground and arrested, two of which have recently received compensation from the Met, but yet their investigation found that the response at the vigil was appropriate. Why don't women come forward? Because the very people that are supposed to lock up the rapists are rapists. So what if you want to go above the police and go to your MP? The people making our laws that refuse to make misogyny a hate crime? 56 MPs currently accused of sexual misconduct. One of which they're not naming but I will, Rosendale, has had his bail extended for the 6th time. He was first arrested over 16 months ago on suspicion of indecent assault, rape, abuse of a position of power, misconduct in public office, and they're standing him again at the next election. Okay, well what about the head of state, King Charles? The guy that used to call up Jimmy Savile for PR advice because he was connected with many institutions across the country. The guy who is rehabilitating his brother, Prince Andrew, who settled a civil suit in which he was accused of rape. The Queen spent £12 million of our public money to pay off his rape accuser. The King is trying to rehabilitate his image and is still directly paying him an allowance. At every turn in society, women are failed. And even as I make this video now, my hands are shaking with rage at what we have to put up with. Is it any wonder that less than 2 in 100 rapes recorded by the police in 2022 resulted in a charge that same year, let alone a conviction? 67,169 rapes were recorded by the police in 2022. Charges had been brought in just 1,276 of these cases, 1.9%. Women live a half-life. We have to complete a never-ending checklist. We can't let our guard down. Say we do find a man that we think we can trust. He's the person most likely to murder us. And we've also got to look at the society in which false prophets like Brand are able to prevail. Conspiracy theories run riot when you have a government that's created a post-truth state. A government that spreads conspiracies of its own, encourages the demonisation and othering of certain vulnerable communities, that creates ever more bizarre terms and excuses for the reason why the country's in decline rather than ever taking accountability for their own behaviour. Brand claims to be anti-establishment. He is the establishment. He's a multi-millionaire. The people running our country are multi-millionaires. Nigel Farage, man of the people, went to public school. Boris Johnson, man of the people, went to fucking public school. These people are profiting from conning people. They're cashing in on the fears of people. They're cashing in on people that are ill-informed. And no station is worse for it than GB News. I wonder why Dan Wootton has been out defending Brand. There's innocent until proven guilty, and then there is innocence assumed regardless of evidence and testimony of women. Lots of people have said it, and I agree with it. If Jimmy Savile was still around today, GB News would give him a fucking presenting role. They should be shut down. Not because they're telling the truth, it's because they're peddling bullshit. People are getting thicker in this country. The last 3 years in politics has taught me that the worst things that you could ever imagine are happening in plain sight. They're even reported. People just don't read it, or they don't believe it, or they'll look at a headline and form an opinion based on that without any further context. People are getting stupider. And people like Brand claim to promote critical thinking. It's just fluff hidden behind a flowery vocabulary. It's just vague, wishy-washy nonsense. People look for conspiracies when they don't want to face reality. They look for a hidden agenda because they don't want to face what's really happening. Because the reality of life in Britain at the moment is brutal. The only people responsible for it are the people in charge. But where do stories like this, where does decline like this leave women? Ever more vulnerable. You see, every story like this that pops up resurfaces trauma. It makes us think of our own stories. It makes us think of our friends. I've got friends that have faced life-changing injuries because of men. I've got friends that have been raped. Not one of those men are in prison. Most women don't even feel safe walking in the park in the daylight. And then you get all these dude bros going, "Ooh, trial by social media." It's alleged that he threatened to sue them if they spoke out about this. It's hard enough for a regular woman to get a conviction, let alone a woman that's accusing an A-lister. Women deserve better than living a half-life in fear, and it's on every single man to do something about it.